Supreme Court live update. See what the Supreme Court did to Tinubu's certificate forgery case in USA. Atiku Abubakar responds. Hello guys, welcome back once again to this YouTube channel. Without wasting your time, today, being the 23rd day of October 2023, the Supreme Court of Nigeria started hearing the case of Atiku Abubakar and P2B against Bola Tinubu, who was illegally elected as the president of this particular country. We all know that Tinubu was not legally elected. He was only selected by the criminal Inec chairman, being Mahmoud Yakubu, just because he bribed them and bribed all the institutions we have in the country. Well, as we all know, today there was heavy security at the Supreme Court arena, and only few lawyers and counsel of the petitioners, being Labour Party and PDP, were allowed to enter into the court section with the legal counsel of APC and Inec and Bola Tinubu and Shetima. So, without wasting your time, this is what happened. And this is some of the live updates we got from the Supreme Court, and what the Supreme Court of Nigeria said about the forgery case of Bola Tinubu in the United States, and what they are going to do with the evidence and everything. Well, without wasting your time, please before diving into the cross of this matter, please do well to subscribe, so I'll be getting important live updates and information like this, since the Supreme Court of Nigeria have commenced its ruling on this case. Well, let's head back straight to the point. Today, as you can see on the screen, this is a brief of what happened so far in the Supreme Court. Now, people should know that Chris Uche, as you can see on the screen, San, who is Atiku's lawyer, says that the appeals are ripe for hearing. He said there are some pending intercollectory application and moves a motion filed 6th October 2023. He seeks 5 minutes of adumberation of the application. They are praying for an order of leave to present fresh evidence. That's the fresh evidence they got from Chicago State University about Tinubu's forged certificate. They are praying for an order of leave to present fresh evidence on appeal based on the deposition on oath from Chicago State University. Instead, the application is predicated on 20 grants and an affidavit of 20 paragraphs filed on behalf of Atiku. He went on to say, upon the receipt of counter affidavit from Mr. Tinubu, APC and INEC, they filed a written address dated 18th October. Now, he adopts the application and urges the court to grant their request. Chris Uche also said the issue involving Tinubu's certificate is a weighty, grave and constitutional one, which the Supreme Court, he urged the court to admit the fresh evidence of President Tinubu's academic records from Chicago State University presented by Atiku. He said the Supreme Court has a duty to take a look at Mr. Tinubu's records and reach a decision devoid of technicality. The presiding judge, John Okoro, who is one of the Supreme Court justices, asked Chris Uche whether the Supreme Court should rely on the Electoral Act or the Constitution. In his response, Chris Uche says the issue about Mr. Tinubu's certificate is a constitutional matter which the court should look into. A member of the panel, part of the Supreme Court justices, Emmanuel Ajim, asked Chris Uche to explain the nature of Atiku's fresh evidence, Atiku's fresh documents he seeks to tender before the Supreme Court. Justice Ajim asked again whether the testimony by CSU registrar was conducted in a court. Justice Ajim says from Chris Uche's court filing, the testimony by CSU registrar held in Atiku's lawyer's law office in the US. Justice Ajim equally says the CSU did not issue any letter discrediting Mr. Tinubu's certificate. Just look at what a Supreme Court justice is asking. He's only looking for a letter. Meanwhile, the school itself went for a deposition, which is very powerful to disown Tinubu's certificate. And these people are saying that the school needs to write to them a letter. Well, let's continue. They said, Justice Ajim says that the CSU did not issue any letter discrediting Mr. Tinubu's certificate. We are dealing with a matter that touches on the national unity of the nation of Nigeria, the justice being Justice Ajim said. Then Justice Okoro, another justice from this Supreme Court, said, seeks clarification from Atiku's lawyer, being Chris Uche. Justice Okoro asked Mr. Uche on why he wants the Supreme Court to brush aside constitutional provisions and entertain the fresh evidence. Chris Uche-san explained that Section 233 of the Constitution gives the Supreme Court the power to entertain questions about whether a person has been properly elected. Chris Uche, being Atiku Abubakar's lawyer, said, response to the issue raised about the CSU proceedings. There is a slight distinction between proceedings in the US and the UK. In the US, that is how court proceedings are. Chris Uche is trying to tell them that there is a slight proceedings between the US and the UK. The US does not need to write a letter to the Supreme Court of Nigeria telling them that they've disowned Bola Tinubu's document, that it is even enough for the deposition alone to explain that Tinubu submitted a forged document, that depositions are very powerful. You could see, he went further to say that in the US, that is how proceedings are done. Mr. Tinubu was represented by a US lawyer, but he did not object to the proceedings being held in Atiku's Abubakar's lawyer office. The Supreme Court justices, because they have been bribed already, you could see it from their statement, they are arguing that since the deposition did not happen in a court, that they're trying to discredit the evidence. But Atiku Abubakar's lawyer told them that even Tinubu's lawyer who represented them were present in the deposition, and they did not even counter the place where the deposition was made. Now, let's go further. Chris Uche said that the depositions are more effective than letters from the CSU authorities regarding the authenticity of Mr. Tinubu's academic record. You could see Atiku Abubakar's lawyer is a very smart one. He's telling that depositions are more powerful than mail letters that will be sent out to disown the letter, that to disown the certificate. That depositions, that is the deposition where the CSU disowned Tinubu's document or certificate is submitted to Inec, is more powerful. Now, they said, 9:43 a.m. Justice Okoro says criminal, that is one of the justices, said criminal matters have to be proved beyond reasonable doubt. But in this case, there are two conflicting letters from the CSU, one authenticating the president's certificate and another discrediting it. Which do we rely on? He asks. Chris Uche refers the court to a letter earlier issued to Michael Enahoro Eba, a lawyer who testified for Atiku against Mr. Tinubu at the presidential election petition court in Abuja. Inec lawyer Abubakar Mahmood San asked the Supreme Court to dismiss Atiku Abubakar's application seeking to tender Mr. Tinubu's academic record. You could see Inec, who is supposed to be neutral, is now defending the criminal being Bola Tinubu. You could see that our institutions are being bought over. Instead of Inec to be neutral, they are asking the Supreme Court to throw away an evidence. What has Inec do with Tinubu's personal matters? Instead of Inec to keep short, they are actually defending Bola Tinubu. Now let's go ahead. Inec lawyer Abubakar Mahmood San asked the Supreme Court to dismiss Atiku Abubakar's application seeking to tender Mr. Tinubu's academic records. Wole Olanipekun, being Tinubu's lawyer, appealed to the Supreme Court to dismiss this unusual application seeking to tender fresh evidence against Mr. Tinubu. He said the fresh evidence is not admissible. Olanipeku argues that the CSU depositions are dormant until the deponent comes to court and testify. Inec should have been a party at the deposition proceedings in the US. The lawyer said, the Ariola lawyer said. Now the question, then Tinubu's lawyer went further to say that the question of 180 days, the statutory period within which an election petition should be filed and determined, is clear. It is sacrosanct, can't be shifted. Therefore, Atiku can't seek to tender fresh evidence at the Supreme Court. You could see the technicality that Tinubu's lawyer is trying to say, that since the 180 days period has expired, that Atiku cannot, tender fresh evidence. Then when Olanipeku, being Bat and Shitima's lawyer, said Atiku's fresh evidence is an application in Wonderland and has no merit. He urged the court to dismiss it, stating that the court is bound by the law and the law must be interpreted as it is. Now you could see the technicality. You could see the technicality that they want to use to dismiss this evidence. Instead of the Supreme Court justice to save Nigeria's image, how can you allow somebody who forged a document to be the number one president? Now you people are using technicalities. That means Tinubu will be the president with a forged document and he's submitted to Inec. Well, like I said, I'll keep you guys posted because this is just what happened. I'm going to upload and update you on P2B.